So at the moment, please, just to kick off proceedings, can I please ask you to welcome Worshipful Brother Peter Hollingsworth, our Assistant Provincial Grand Master in charge.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, brethren. It's great to see so many of you here. The Charity Stewards Conference is important, and I'm glad you're here, and on Zoom too, however many there are, because I haven't got a clue. We've got a big agenda this morning. It's interesting. I hope you find it informative and enjoyable. I'd like to say a couple of words about Festival 2022. One of the casualties of COVID-19 is the Festival 2022, your festival, our festival, and it's not doing so well. Your lodges have got millions of pounds in their relief chests. That's money donated by brethren to charity. I urge you to transfer some of that money, just simply transfer a small amount of that money in your relief chests to the Festival 2022 and support our Provincial Grand Charity Steward, Worshipful Brother Colin, and his plans to revive the Festival 2022. Thank you, brethren. Enjoy the conference. Colin.
Well, brethren, those of you who know me, normally I sort of speak off the cuff because I care passionately what we do about charity and so on. But I think the message here is so important that I am going to refer to some of these notes. You see, it's quite big writing, so don't be too perturbed that I'm going to go on for forever and ever. So I've already said welcome and thank you. The very fact that there is so many people here today means that you care about charity as much as I do. And brethren, you know, there's no doubt about it. We do make a difference. Now, as your Provincial Grand Charity Steward, I see this every day. We save lives. We give people hope. We change situations for the better. We help the disadvantaged. We help the needy. It's your money, brethren, not mine. It's your money, our money, being used where it's most needed. And I have to say that I never cease to be amazed by the generosity of Essex Freemasons. Through your lodges and chapters, hundreds of thousands of pounds are donated every year to local charities across Essex. This is supported by big-ticket grants from the MCF, the Masonic Charitable Foundation. That's our local charity. Every year it gives us back tens of thousands of pounds in grants to Essex charities and other good causes. Now, I'm going to talk about this a bit later because what we as a province give to the MCF is why we're here today. Brethren, when I say what's raised in Essex stays in Essex, is not entirely true. What we raise in Essex is added to by the MCF and given back to us. They give back to us more than we give them. Now, the MCF relies heavily on provinces like ours to raise money via festival appeals. Now, we started ours in September 2017. Do you remember back to those halcyon days? It seems like yesterday, eh, guys? And it's due to finish in March 2022. Now, as you may recall, our original target was £5 million, which was later raised to £6 million by our late Provincial Grand Master, Rodney Bass. We're currently at 4.3 million. Now, there might be other figures that are quoted that we might have reached 4.5 or 4.6 or 4.7, but I can only go on what's banked. I can't go on what's promised. So think 4.3 million and you'll see just how much we've had a shortfall. Now, I was with very worshipful brother Paul Reeves when we went to the MCF and set that £5 million target. And it was considered by us at the time to be very modest. And most of us thought we could easily beat that figure. In fact, prior to COVID, we were receiving donations from lodges and chapters in excess of £100,000 a month. There were some months we were getting £120,000 in donations. And we're all going, wow, this is great. We're going to hit 6 million. We're going to hit 6.2 million. And everybody was patting themselves on the back and going, this is it. We've done it. We're going to set a new record. Now, what do they say about making plans and God laughs? Well, donations virtually stopped overnight. They've never recovered. And I'm now in the situation of wondering whether we shall exceed 4.5 million. And with 200 days left to go, I need your help. At this precise moment, you may be thinking we can relax. After all, 4.5 million is a lot of money. And as you can see, it looks like a big total on our graph, 65% of the target. Bearing in mind the unusual circumstances we've all faced over the last 18 months, it should be considered an incredible effort. Brethren, I cannot disagree. So please do not be offended by what follows. It's not intended to put pressure on you or your members. I personally stand firmly by the commitment that no one should give more than they can afford without detriment to ourselves or our connections is something we should all adhere to. I would also add that the Deputy Provincial Grand Master in charge, Very Worshipful Brother Paul Reeves, the Assistant Provincial Grand Master in charge, and our new PGM designate, Paul Tarrant, have also made it clear to me that the festival total will be whatever it is. So no pressure on you. And by implication, no pressure on me as the Provincial Grand Charity Steward. You know I'm lying through my teeth here, don't you? Yes, okay. Right, fine. Okay. With that in mind then, it will be easy to step away and let things take their natural course. But brethren, that's not the way we do things in Essex. We have commitments that need to be honoured. We have future expenses that need to be met. We have responsibilities as a province that cannot be avoided. It's a situation that has been created by the COVID pandemic. So no one here is to blame. All charities have suffered because of this wretched virus. So all I can do is tell you the facts as I understand them and let you and your members decide what you want to do. But it does mean there are some inconvenient truths which need to be confronted, which I want to share with you all today. This, I hope, will help you and your members make those decisions as to whether you wish to further support our festival. I can only tell you how it is and why I need your help, and I hope you will understand the spirit of what I'm about to say. So depending on your point of view, let me get the bad news or not so bad news out of the way first of all. This is why I hate doing paper, you know. Now, every year, the MCF give us nearly £500,000 to help distressed Freemasons and their families across Essex. You will hear from other speakers as to exactly where this money is used. Now, there are 11 years between festivals, so it's not hard to do the sums. Even if we reach 5 million, we're going to fall short by £500,000 just to look after our own. It means we're not even going to raise enough to look after Essex Freemasons, distressed Essex Freemasons and their families. Now, this will be reinforced by other speakers because we get other sums of money as well. And in fact, regardless of how much we raise, over the 11-year period, the MCF will give us back £7 million. It's a fact, brethren. I can't dispute it. You'll hear that later from Les Hutchinson. You'll hear it from Suhail. It's £7 million we get back. So whatever your members say, what do the MCF do for us? 7 million times, 7 million reasons to ask them for their support. It's only part of the MCF story because every year they also donate tens of thousands of pounds in our name to local Essex charities. You will see many of them featured later on in this conference. Now, since the last festival, the MCF has made hundreds of thousands in donations also to the hospice movement across Essex. In the last few weeks, when I say last few weeks, the last 4 weeks, look at that, 34,000 to St Luke's, 33,000 to Farley at Chelmsford, £31,000 to St Helena. Those are MCF grants, brethren, given in our name. And when we get the publicity for that, it's always Essex Freemasons have donated that, because that's the deal with the MCF, our money coming back. Now here are some more typical examples of big ticket items. Carers' Choices in Benfleet, we match funded that. That was £16,000 from the MCF, £16,000 from the Essex Freemasons Community Fund. We're going to have a minibus going around the South Essex with Essex Freemasons regalia all over it for the next 20 years. That is a charity that trains young children to cook for parents who can't do it themselves, to give them life skills, parents who are with educational problems. Southend in Sight, £30,000 to create a service for the visually impaired. Place to Be, we still haven't actually done this yet, but £25,000 going to schools in Harlow to help children with mental health issues. And so the list goes on, brethren. Typical examples. I could go on again and again and again with what we're getting back. Now, it would be easy to say that COVID has been the main reason for our festival shortfall, but that would not be entirely true. Essex Freemasons are not tight-fisted, but we just give our money in different ways. So I see, for example, other provinces doing better than we are, and I will explain why. Most other provinces, many of which do not operate relief chests, and I think Suhail will do that. Essex has pretty much every lodge and chapter has got a relief chest, but there are lots of other provinces that have none at all or don't operate in the same way. So they go into a festival where the PGM virtually says, look guys, I want every member to take out a regular payment promise. And of course they do. But here, our guys say, well, hold on, we're already doing a regular payment into our relief chest. We don't want to pay twice. I get that. I understand it. Which is why only around 15% of our members took out regular payment promises for a festival duel. Now, there's lots of good reasons why we are paying to the relief chest, and I certainly wouldn't want that scheme to drop. But it does mean that other provinces have not been affected. So, for example, Leicester and Rutland started their festival exactly the same time as us, and we can see a situation where, because of this, their per capita donation is £640 per member. If we equated that in Essex, we would have already hit our £6 million. It's as simple as that, brethren. But that doesn't mean to say we haven't given it, and I will come back to that later, because you have given it already. Now, in this province, we've tended to raise money from social events, and as already mentioned, from transfers to relief chests. Now, both of these have stopped because of COVID, and with just a few months to go, there's obviously very little opportunity to go socialising. There is, however, a massive hidden bonus, as it's already been alluded to by our Assistant Provincial Grand Master in charge. Essex is a large and rich province, and I know that we have more than £1 million stashed away in lodge and chapter relief chests, and actually, if the truth be known, probably the same amount in benevolent funds as well. Now, I'm unable to tell you how much each lodge and chapter has for obvious reasons, but I do know the collective total. So what does this mean? It's money that's already been donated to charity, so I'm not asking you to put your hands in your pocket once again, but to actually unleash the kraken, open up the relief chest. It's no good waiting for that proverbial rainy day, because it's coming down. I put cats and dogs here, but let's be honest, brother, it's pissing down as far as our festival is concerned, so let's be frank. It actually is. And I don't want to be in the Guildhall next year when we have that celebration and we look at what might have been, because we can make that change now. If that money can be transferred now, money already given, we could hit that elusive £6 million target. And I hope you'll agree that once we get back to normality, for whatever that is, most units will be easily able to make that cash up again once normal meetings have started. And it will be in the knowledge that we would have fulfilled our obligation to the appeal. Now, I visit a lot of lodges and chapters. I think I might probably visit most of yours that by going into lockdown, I've lost 3 stone by not visiting lodges like yours. It's great. But I know that some charity stewards, treasurers and secretaries are reluctant to do this. I can't understand why. It's cash in the relief chest. They're saving it up for local charities, and I understand that, but these are special circumstances and it needs special actions. Now, I know you want to support local charities, but I also want you to know that we as a province are also separately supporting local charities in a different way, and more about that in the second half of the conference. But I think I ought to emphasise again that what I'm saying is not to put you or your members under any pressure. I cannot tell you as private lodges or chapters how to spend your money. And I wouldn't want to either. I can only tell you the truth of the situation. And we are in at the moment, caused by a pandemic that no one could have foreseen, and let you decide what you want to do. But equally, I cannot sugarcoat the truth of the situation we're facing right now. These are unusual times, brethren, which requires a different approach. And I believe that only you can make the decision to get behind the festival, even if you know the full facts and want to. I cannot ask you either to go out and organise social events, but I hope you will in the next 6 months. Now, there are also other ways that you can help if you're willing to accept the challenge. Because of COVID, the MCF have told me that they're willing to accept pledges that will remain in force for a period of 18 months from the end of our festival. This means they will accept an IOU from every lodge, chapter and individual until December 2023. But if you make that pledge, because it's a Freemason's word is his bond, brethren, isn't it? The MCF will act as if you've passed that money over now. Now, let me emphasise to you again what this means to you as a lodge chapter or as an individual. This is all about promise and trust and buys precious time to help us reach the target. If you as a lodge or a chapter agree that you will transfer a certain sum by December 2023, then that figure will be added to our festival total now. If you as an individual do the same, either via regular payments or as a pledge for a one-off donation, that total will also be added now. Now, members of my charity team will be happy to explain how this works in more detail, or please email me or my deputy, Chris Hicks, to find out more. Now, I think I've probably made my case, so let's finish this section on a more positive note. A sum of 4.3 million is still a lot of cash, and everyone should be congratulated for what we have achieved so far. It's a brilliant total, brethren. I want to thank everyone who's given, with particular thanks going to these organisations. Now, these are lodges or orders where every member also belongs to a mother craft or chapter. So they are essentially giving twice, which is why they get special mention at this stage. Essex Masters have donated already £105,000, thank you. The Craft Stewards, £76,000. I know that figure has already gone up because they've had a recent golf day which raised £5,000, so thank you, Craft Stewards. Chapter Stewards, £24,000, thank you. And other orders, brethren, because you've got to be a craft mason to belong to another order, £150,000 so far and rising. If you also add all the support we've received from our colleagues on Essex Mason, and the thousands of Masons who go out fundraising every day, then, brethren, how can we fail to really hit our target? Let's look at what our chapters and lodges have done so far. 210 lodges and 49 chapters have already reached vice patron. Quite a lot haven't. 125 lodges and 29 chapters are at patron. 71 lodges and 22 chapters at grand patron. 18 lodges and 6 chapters at platinum, which means that 248 lodges and 65 chapters have achieved at least one target. Brethren, I'd remind you we have over 300 lodges. So to get that into perspective. Now, brethren, thank you. With your help, I'm confident we can work miracles in the next 6 months And of course, we have got that 18 months get out of jail free card. So that's the situation, and I hope you can take that back to your lodges. But to hear now how your relief chest works, and probably and hopefully to strengthen the message you've just heard, I would like you to introduce Suhail Alam, who is a Chief Digital and Technology Officer, which means basically he's very important at the MCF. Suhail Alam.
Good morning, everyone. It's absolutely great to see you all here in person after such a long time. And also a very good morning to those of you who are joining us virtually. I'm going to talk briefly about the relief chest scheme. Okay. Now, normally, in this session, I would go into some technical details of how the relief chest scheme works, the methods of donation, the payment methods, any updates from HMRC, and the Charity Commission, etc. But today you'll be pleased to learn that I'm going to do none of that. Instead, it's going to be a quick refresher on the relief chest scheme, especially for those who are coming to the position of either charity steward or relief chest representative or treasurer or secretaries new. Instead, I'm going to focus on two very key areas which I believe to be critical and relevant to give the much needed boost to our festival in the province. There is a Q&A session at the end, later in the day, and I'll be here. So any questions, feel free to bounce them with me, and I'll try my very best to answer them. So is everybody comfortable with that? Good. So just to remind ourselves, what is the relief chest scheme? It was established in 1986. In simple terms, relief chest scheme is a DAF, DAF, donor advised fund, where a donor makes an irrevocable donation to a fund. In our case, that means relief chest. Any eligible donations are then subject to the gift aid tax relief from HMRC. That tax relief is added to the donation. The total that gets accumulated in the relief chest fund, the owner of the relief chest, be it a lodge, chapter, province, or any other Masonic organization, will then disperse those sums to a recognized charity. It's a popular scheme in the country, largely because of its tax efficiency, cost efficiencies, and administrative ease. And that's why they're very popular. So relief chest scheme is a donor advised fund. We have over 5,000 relief chests, lodge relief chests 3,600. Chapter relief chest 793, other Masonic orders 456, and where we set up festival provincial relief chests, largely these are the ones which are being used for either provincial or local appeals or national appeals for the purposes of charitable activities, etc. Now, I believe there are 300 lodges in our province?
304.
Right, out of those 304, we have 274 lodges who have got relief chests. So that is a very interesting statistic. And out of the 120-ish chapters, we have about 84 chapters who've got relief chests. Essex has been a very big user and supporter of the relief chest scheme when compared to the other provinces. And that's an absolutely great result in terms of when we look at our charitable endeavors over the years and how we have managed appeals previously. And that is very important to bear in mind, especially when I talk about two other areas of focus this morning. Okay, now I said earlier, two key areas, and the first one is this, digital donations. Last year, around about May, June time, we were asked a question that how can we find a suitable alternative to cash collections, given the time we were in, the lockdown, restrictions, no Masonic meetings, physical meetings taking place, etc., etc. So I spent most of my summer evenings and weekends trying to come up with a method of how we could do that. And the answer to that was a program called Digital Donations, which essentially is a QR scheme, QR for quick response. And that enables us to collect donations which otherwise would have been made in a physical gathering. So a QR code can be used either at a Zoom meeting, virtual meeting, or if there is no meeting, the same QR code can be circulated to the members of a lodge or a chapter, either via an email or attached to a summons or any other document that can be circulated either electronically via email or sent in a post. So we designed and developed the system in-house. The POC, or the proof of concept, was tested back in August, same time last year. Then we did a trial run with about, I think, 9 provinces from September to November. And after establishing its functionality and the robustness and the success of it, it was then rolled out to the entire Masonic community in England and Wales. I believe the Essex province received their digital donation assets in the early part of January this year. The Relief Church representatives, those of you who are present here today or attending this conference virtually, will recall an email being sent on and about first and second week of January, which had attachments, one being the image of a QR code, the other one being a PDF document, which had the picture of the same and a URL, and also a guide for the Relief Church representative or the charity steward, and a guide for the donors. Okay. Russell, could you move to the screen here for me, please? And can we stay here? Now, what has been interesting is the popularity of this program. I mean, it was my hopeful, I did hope it to be successful, but it has really actually beaten expectations here. It's been widely used, very popular. Why? Because it's very easy, okay? It takes less than a minute to make a donation. If you're a Relief Church representative or a charity steward, it actually relieves you from all the administration that you would have otherwise gone through when you are managing the gift aid program. So there's no need to order gift aid envelopes, no need to lay them out at in a temple, whether giving them out by hand or putting them on the chairs or at the festive boats. No need to collect them later, count them, put the money in the bank account, then raise a check and send all those slips to the office at MCF at Great Queen Street, and then wait for them to be processed and then receive an acknowledgement letter that for that particular meeting, so much was raised, so much will be the gift aid, etc., etc. None of that. All one has to do as a Relief Church representative or a charity steward is circulate that QR code or URL. URL is the bit at the bottom, which is the website address that can, when entered in a browser, can be accessed. The quick response or the QR code can be used by your smart devices or smart telephones. Okay? What's come out of this, interestingly, is, and I'll show that on the next slide. Oops, sorry. It's the average donation. And I was actually amazed by this. The average donation over the past 9 months via this method stands nationally at 25. Essex has done even better. You guys are doing 28. The average gift aid envelope averages 8.7. Now let's just call it £8.50, just for round numbers. If you look at the statistics of gift aid envelopes between 2016 to 2019, the highest being £9.16, including gift aid, £9.16, and the lowest number I think was £8.42. Okay, digital donations is actually taking £25. In your case, it's Essex 28. When you factor that in addition to the ease of administration or the lack of it. Remember I just talked about no need to order envelopes, no need to keep a stock wherever you kept the stock or keep the stock now. No need to dish out the envelopes, count them, maintain them, list them, send the check out. Okay? And you add that difference between 25 and £8.50. That is one reason I will use it. Okay, now I understand not all of our brethren, the usual thing that keeps coming back to us, that not all brethren are tech savvy. That's understandable. But I think we underestimate that. I strongly believe that. And I'll give you a very brief example. Back in 2007, I was public enemy number 1 in the Masonic world because I introduced the gift in envelope scheme. And I actually introduced it starting with Essex. Eric is here. I remember him at that time being part of the Provincial charity team. And we did, I think it was Upminster. We did a small get-together, and everybody hated me. But he was not the only one, because everybody said, it will never work. Nobody's going to fill in the envelopes. It will never, never, never work. Fast forward 10 years, that scheme has raised £3 million on average each year. The 10% of takings for every festival in the country comes from gift aid envelope scheme. So we're taking a step forward. I know people talked about, well, Colin and others have been talking about desperation and all that. I think desperation can be a very good source of inspiration. It's the mindset thing. I personally really strongly encourage you, please, to use the digital donation program. Okay? If you look at the number of lodges we have in the province, if we look at the number of meetings that are likely to take place, hopefully physical, over the next 6 months, up to March 2022, if you add or look at the number, if you look at the membership per unit in lodge and chapter, and take that value, whether 25, 28, or even 20, I think it's pretty simple arithmetic of how much you can raise and the difference you can make to the festival total. Okay? So can I just leave that with you? I'd just like to reiterate, the relief chest representatives received the QR code and the URL. We call them digital donation assets. Digital donation because it's a digital program. Assets because each QR code and URL is unique to individual relief chest holder. It belongs to you, it's owned by you. That's why the terminology assets. Okay? And I'm going to move on to the next key area. Right, those of you who are representatives of the relief chest scheme will remember this form, the green voucher, as it's most commonly known as. It's actually a payment request voucher to transfer or make a charitable disbursement to another charity, and can also be used to make a transfer from one relief chest to another relief chest. In our case, the Festival 2022 relief chest. We have, and Colin has mentioned earlier, around £1 million available. Okay? You can cut the chase and not worry about asking people, members, for any additional sum, and use those existing balances in your relevant respective relief chest and transfer the funds over. Of course, subject to your norms, bylaws, etc., of individual unit. All you need to do is complete the same green voucher as you normally would and send it over to the office. Additionally, please remember, especially the relief chest representatives and the charity stewards, this form. If you haven't seen it before, you should have seen this before. Use this form as an allocation form. So the amount of sum that you would transfer to the Festival 2022 can be allocated to the members of that particular unit, larger chapter. Okay? How you allocate the money, the sum that you're transferring over, is entirely down to that unit. Whether it's an equal distribution amongst members, or you're distributing the sum amongst those who have actually contributed either by a direct debit or they're given a one-off sum. Okay, does that make sense? So you're actually getting credit for the lodge or chapter, but you're also giving the opportunity to those members to receive the festival jewel and festival honorifics and festival jewels. So the green voucher, and please make sure you complete this form. It's a great opportunity to get the due credit for your lodge and for your members. I've sent a PDF copy to Colin, okay, which I hope at some point Colin can email it to all the charity stewards and the relief chest representatives. So please remember to fill in that form. Yeah? Now, since last May, there's been another method introduced, which is an online method. Instead of filling in the green voucher, you can actually go online and complete the same form, right? The platform is called e-voucher platform. That's the URL. Again, this will be circulated by Colin or his team to all the Relief Chest representatives. The e-voucher platform has been functional since 3rd week of May last year. And I'm pretty sure there will be members or Relief Chest representatives in Essex who are using it. So all one needs to do is the Relief Chest representative needs to go on that address, enter their details, register, they will receive an activation key, activate the key, and then you can complete the details. Same as the green voucher, instead of, you'll need a second signatory, but instead of sending the form in post or looking for the treasurer or the secretary or the worshipful master, you send that request via email to the second person who needs, in this case, approving. Once that person has approved, the details automatically are sent to the Relief Chest office and they will process an action as they normally would. Typically, that's what the screen will look like. Now here I've entered my details and that's what the screen will come up as when you're using the e-voucher platform. Colin, are we going to just email any of these slides? Is that?
I'm sorry, sir.
Are we going to email any of the slides?
We will afterwards, and already a lot of what you're hearing is on the cube.
Okay, brilliant. So that would be available. Right. Again, we started with reminding ourselves what the Relief Chest scheme is, its technical definition, and we finished off with the benefits. The benefits are, by using the Relief Chest scheme, all the services are free to all Masonic organizations. The availability of offline, online donations, the attraction to all eligible gift aid donations, the 25% of gift aid tax relief. By having a Relief Chest, a Masonic organization relieves themselves for any compliance and statutory obligation, whether that is to the HMRC, ICO, the Information Commissioner Office, with regards to data protection, and the Charity Commission. So these are essentially the reasons why the Relief Chest scheme is used, and as I said earlier, our province here is a big user. I'm pointing in the wrong direction, but I'm hoping they will get the clue. So, the same picture says 1,000 words, and this is your Relief Chest scheme in entirety. On the left-hand side of the screen, you see all the methods and resources available for receiving donations, methods of monies going out, and that picture on your far right-hand side is hopefully not complicated, maybe a bit complex, but that's how the whole thing works in the background. And that's all I have to say for now, but I'm here for the rest of the morning, and we're very happy to answer any questions that you may have. I'll try my very best. Thank you. And again, it's really great to see you guys all again. Thank you.
Well, brethren, for the moment, you've probably heard enough from us. So let's hear from you. We're already getting questions coming over from Zoom, where we've got 120 people actually tuning in virtually. Hi, everybody, virtually. So this is your chance to ask any questions that you might have, but we'll kick off with the first one.
Yeah. Okay.
Come up, Chris. Come join me here. If anybody, this is Chris Hicks, who's the Deputy Provincial Grand Charity Steward, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah. Hope you can all see me over the top here. Just let you know, the first question we've had...
Have you seen Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito in Twins?
Yeah. We've had one question we've had over Zoom is asking about the extension of the IOUs and whether the IOU extension can be applied to regular payment plans as well. And I think that's one.
That's correct. They can be. Yes.
They can be.
They can.
That's good. So that's one that we can do. So those of you on Zoom that asked that question, yes, we will be able to extend it. So any RPPs taken out in the next few months can be extended into 2023.
December 2023,
right.
And they were taken into consideration. So if you a £5 a month, that would still be what, £90, £100 between now and 2023. Any questions from the audience? Oh, wow. Hold on a sec. You were first.
Yeah, Graham Verby, Earlham Lodge 7266, and also Earlham Chapters C7266. Suhail, we've been using the QR system and we love it. And you are absolutely right. Even what we call the older members have also come on board, which is terrific. Our issue, however, has been with regards to finding out what we've collected. We seem to have to wait about a month or even more to find out what monies we've collected from a meeting from, let's say, last night.
Yeah.
And that is a potential problem, certainly at the moment.
Okay, I think that is actually a fair point, or a challenge rather. Well, first of all, thank you for adopting that, and it's great to hear that you're finding it very useful, and even that the mature or senior members are adopting that as well. You're right in saying that currently the back office, or the office system, is a monthly, I think it's a statement/stroke letter that comes out, and which depicts all the number of donations and their values, etc. So that process is there once a month. The delay on that, the only reason I can think of, and I'm not entirely sure why that is, but I think that's probably because of people not being physically available in the office, working from home, etc. So that can be the reason. I know the technical side of things, the discipline is to generate those reports or letters once a month. That I know happens. By the time the fulfillment takes place, i.e. gets sent out physically, the delay there, the only reason I can think of, and I'll go back to the office and make that point to please improve on that, is the physical element of dispatch. And in the past 18 months, there are only so many people who can come into the office because we were not allowed, restrictions, and the further, if you like, delays or bottlenecks, or the fulfillment house that we use. Going forward, I think we will have to continue with this system for the time being, okay? The reason I like the question is because there are some developments taking place over the next 12 to 18 months. And one of those developments are that you, as relief trust representatives, are likely to have direct access to your relief trust just like your bank account. So this particular necessity will actually disappear. Right, now, is this being recorded? Right, okay, so I've actually said something here that...
I think you should work on the basis that the answer is yes.
Okay, well, in that case, the big news that you would hear, it's not happening this year, not next year, but in a not too distant future, the entire relief share scheme will be in a totally different environment, ecosystem, and you'll be very, very proud of it. Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question, Graham?
Yeah, thank you.
Right, sorry, who's next?
Thanks. Ian Stevenson, Victory Marine Lodge. Once a lodge has agreed an IOU promise, how does it actually make it? What does it have to do?
Actually, that's a very good question, actually. But if you make a pledge, and you can email me that pledge from your lodge, if that's been agreed by your GP committee and voted in open lodge that you wish to do that at a given date between now and December 2023, I will inform the MCF that donation is coming from your lodge, and they will credit that immediately to your lodge. So that would be the process. If that's okay. But of course, if your members take out regular payments, then that will automatically be credited. Anybody else? Gentleman over there.
Peter Ford, Victorian Chapter and Rochford 100 Lodge. For all those that are making the regular payments each month, which are due to finish in November or December this year, if you wish to carry on, will it do it automatically, or will we have to apply for it to continue?
The short answer is no, they will stop. You have to instruct your bank or take out a new regular payment.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Anybody else? Oh, come on, guys. I have some questions
from Zoom.
Don't forget, there's 120 on.
Yeah, there's
yes, no, I hadn't forgotten that.
There's quite a few coming from Zoom. I'll ask them in order. I think this one is to to Suhail, is that £25 average donation an annual one, or is it just a
No,
one-off?
that's right. The average that I was talking about, this person was, if you're watching me Zoom right now, the average that I stated earlier is per transaction. Okay, it's not an accumulation of X number of transactions. It's one transaction. So average 25 in the country using digital donation method is £25. So i.e., I either use my phone, smart device, or any other computing technology and made a donation, and that average across the country is 25, which in Essex is 28. Does that answer the question, Chris?
Yep.
Any more for me?
Yes,
Can I stay here?
I think most of them are for you, Suhail.
Okay, I'll stay here.
Do you know, on average, how many lodges have actually pledged money to the festival?
No, I think Colin, you have a better picture than I would.
Yeah, I can.
No is the answer. That I don't have access. Well, I actually don't know who.
In fact, I think
Is this? I'm not sure if the question is exactly right.
I can answer this. I think I can answer this question because we get the reports every month, and I know at the moment that there are, I think it's 8 lodges and something like about 10 chapters in Essex who have not donated anything yet to the festival. Everybody else.
It's a pledge.
Okay, it's pledge. Yeah, so donations we know what they are. I don't know about pledges. I mean, pledge was what was on the question.
Yeah, I think it's, this is, brother, is a difficult question to answer because, as I explained it, as private lodges and chapters, this is your money. You decide what happens to it, and we don't know until you've actually parted with the cash whether we're going to receive it or not. I mean, in spite of the visits you might get from APGMs or me trying to twist your arm, or for Chris or for me, any other members of our team. But no, but we'd like to hear about those pledges, and that would actually help us and give us an idea of what our potential target could be. So it's as simple as that. But I think I would also like to expand on a fact that we mentioned about relief chests. I was speaking to the charity steward of a lodge, let's say in North Essex, who has yet to actually reach vice patron. In fact, they're well short of vice patron. Now, this lodge, the charity steward was very happy to admit to me that he has £19,700 in his relief chest and some 20,000 in their benevolent fund. So, I know, this is what we're facing. This is money that those particular lodge members have donated. All I can say, brethren, they are getting a visit. Yes. Thank you. So, what's the next question?
The other one to do with the online access, which you addressed.
That's a true story.
Yeah, there's one other one from the Zoom one. Do we know the levels of donations for lodges and chapters prior to COVID? Do we know what has changed, other than what we can see on our statement?
Once again, in answer to that question, we were receiving, even on a bad month, £80,000. On a good month, it was £120,000. We would have received something like 1.3 million over the period of COVID so far, based on those previous figures. So after COVID, they went down to zilch. In fact, the only monies we were receiving were perhaps from regular payment promises. So that amounted to between £15,000 and £20,000 a month. So that gives you an idea of, we effectively have lost £100,000 a month. I think that, without exaggeration, that's the kind of figure we're looking at over the period of COVID. Money that is, as I hope we've illustrated, is around, it's sloshing around the province. It is there. Probably not in your lodges. You're all sitting here thinking, well, I wish I had all that money in my relief chest. I know you're thinking that, but the fact is, we're probably not talking to all of you here. The very fact that you're here today shows your support. But we're talking that general message out, and I have to sort of put it out to everybody. Any further questions from the floor, or yes, sir?
Mike from Luxembourg Lodge. Just a couple of questions. I do have some members who are reluctant to give monies to the festival, so it would help me if we were to have the slides that you referred to today, so I could actually, emphasise that message. And also, I don't remember receiving the QR code in the email, I'm afraid. Is it possible for that to be resent to Charity Stewards?
The answer to that is yes.
When you say slides, are you referring to my slides?
No, well,
Or slides in general?
Yes.
Okay, but they're available?
Yes, they
Okay, so you'll have that. Now, in terms of, are you the representative of the Lodge Relief Chest? Okay, so you should have received it in January, but that doesn't matter. Could I ask you to email Colin or Chris your email and give the reference of your Lodge / Chapter Relief Chest name, number, and then I'll make sure it's resent. Actually, no, I'll talk to you later. But yeah, that's fine, you will have that, and you'll have that next week.
Thank you.
So the sooner I have your contact details, email Lodge Chapter Relief Chest name and number, and it will be resent.
okay. You do raise a very good point, by the way, in terms of we do see members that have a reluctance to support the MCF, in spite of the messages that are going over month after month, showing people exactly what we get back. That message still doesn't actually sink in. In terms of what the MCF does for local charities, I'm going to illustrate a little bit more in the second section. I think you'll find that sort of quite useful. But already you can see the big ticket items that we've had back. And that figure of £7 million will be reiterated in the second half by Les Hutchinson from the MCF. That is how much we're getting back. Regardless of what we give, that overall message, the MCF will give Essex Freemasons £7 million, regardless of what we give them. So we can still rely on their support. Whether they can rely on ours is a matter of course, and this is what we have to see. But anything said will be online. It will be available. Anybody that wishes to go through any of my scripts, slides, you're extremely welcome, brethren. I'm very welcome. Yes, sir.
Carl George, West Essex Roundtable Lodge. We made a very large donation to the MCF.
Thank you.
Is that money in your figures for Festival 22, or has it been added at the end, as was promised?
I haven't the faintest idea without looking at the figures, and we will check those afterwards. I think Chris might have them online, but
Email me, I'll make a note and I'll have a look for you.
yeah. I mean, anybody that's got any doubt about what they've given, what individual members have given, if you are the registered charity steward, we will give you access to all those figures for your particular lodge.
Sorry, I think there's been a confusion here. One of our members died and gave £750,000.
Yes, I know, I guess, sorry. No.
The donation you mean,
No, that will not be donated to the festival, and in fact, one of the reasons why the late Rodney Bass raised our target from 5 to 6 million is that we received a legacy of £703,000 for various... Yeah, for various reasons, but believe me, brethren, for those that know me, I don't give up easily on stuff, and I did actually fight that battle very vigorously at the MCF, but lost it. There's a guy called Duncan who looks after the claims up at the MCF who claimed a precedent. Every time he attends a meeting, I keep reminding him that he's robbed us of 703 grand. But such is life. So we must accept we are where we are. The only thing I'm getting back from the MCF is that they will acknowledge that a member did give a legacy of £703,000 when we announce our figure, but it will not be included as part of our figure. I'm sorry about that, but so it means we are still where we are. So if the Round Table Lodge can put their hands in their pockets still further, thank you very much. Please do. I can metaphorically hang you up by your ankles if it helps. Thank you. Brethren, in the absence of any further questions, we're breaking now for a comfort break and coffee for 15 minutes. And then it's back here for section 2, and thank you for your attention thus far. Thank you. We make a difference, brethren. That's what it's about. Your money, our money, the MCF, we make a difference. And in those videos you've just watched, we've had confirmation that £7 million is coming back to Essex to help families like this, to help families across Essex. So if your members are wondering why should they support the MCF, as we've heard this morning, I hope that gives you the ammunition to find out. The MCF will be there for us, whether we're there for them. Brother, I'm very fortunate as charity steward that I have the most fantastic team of individuals. In fact, actually, they're so good that most of my committee members get poached by other divisions because these people are so motivated. But nevertheless, we find other good people to join us. And I'm also very fortunate that I have a deputy in the shape of Chris Hicks, my twin, in case any of you didn't discover before, who actually is a key part of our team, and I could not manage without him. And he wants to talk to you about some of the stuff that you and your lodge members and chapter members might want to do in the next few months. Chris Hicks.
Thanks, Colin. It's always difficult to follow that kind of video. I first saw that video at a Charity Stewards conference 2 years ago, I think it was the first one. And there were grown men crying in the audience there because it was so impactful, and it really shows what we need to do and how what we do does make a difference. So if I get the first slide up, where do we go from here? Well, we know that our target officially is £5 million, and we are approaching that. We stand at 4.3 million banked. So you could say we've just got 700,000 to do in the next 7 months. But we don't want to do that 5 million, do we? That's not the number we want to do. We want to get as close to the 6 million as we can, because we're Essex. We want to do those things. We want to make sure that what we're doing is contributing and benefiting others with that. So, to reach that target, what do we need to do as members to reach £5 million? Effectively, it's £82 per member. Now, we know in Essex, we all belong to a number of lodges and units, etc. And if you looked at memberships, that's £28 per membership. So, next time you go to your lodge, if you want to do one of those QR codes of £28, which is Essex, that's an example of what it will actually do. That will get, if everybody did that, we would get to the £5 million very quickly. But we don't want to do that. If you want to get to 5.25 million, so we're going above what we want, £112 per member. If we want to get to 5.5 million, we're talking about £140 per member. We're still only talking about 2 or 3 donations when you go to each to your memberships to make up that amount. So it's still quite manageable, those manageable chunks. And even for £5.75 million, which would be absolutely fantastic if we could hit that, it's less than £60 per membership with that, which is a manageable number. And if we go to the last figure, which is the 6 million one, what does 6 million mean? If every Essex Mason did a one-off donation of £200, we would hit that 6 million target. And it is not an unrealistic amount. How much money have we saved in the last 18 months by not going to meetings and not having meals? That is 8 meetings worth of meals on average in 18 months. And I don't think there's anybody here who doesn't do 8 meetings in 18 months with that. So it's a good possibility for the whole thing with that. Bearing in mind, there is still time. We say there's 7 months to go with that, but there is still time. Meetings are restarting. I mean, I've been to a few meetings already. Quite a few of you have as well. And the meetings will really start to pick up in September. As people get back to the new normality, we start to have meetings and things begin to happen. Look at your relief chest. Colin has already mentioned it. Suhail's mentioned it as well. Look at your benevolent account. There is money out there which has already been donated for charitable purposes. It was one of the biggest comments that I heard coming back from charity stewards in the last 18 months was, we don't want to burden our members by asking them to make donations above and beyond, because some people are losing their jobs, some people are struggling. We totally understand that completely. This is why it's good to look at your benevolent accounts, look at your relief chests, because there's money in there that has already been donated for charitable purposes. What you're doing is applying that to those charitable purposes. And this is the key point of that. That is something where we don't put pressure on our members because it's already there. That's the, to use a sales jargon with it, that's the low-hanging fruit. And that low-hanging fruit will reap a harvest of actually hitting the target that we really want to go for, closer to the £6 million. There is still time. As I've said, meetings are starting again. Charity stewards, you need to look, if you've not already done, to actually get these things happening. Get donations discussed at the GPC. Get notices of motions put onto the summonses. Get votes done for those monies. We know that some lodges and chapters over the last 18 months have done this by email. They've emailed the members, they've got votes for them, they've got them passed, because we've seen money coming in, which is good. There are still some lodges and chapters that want to follow the protocol of only doing things at physical meetings. Fair enough. That's your choice as individual lodges for that. But bear in mind, as I said there is still time. You've got now 7 months to actually get those administrative processes underway and completed. And by doing that, we will then hit that target. And bear in mind, transfer those funds into the Festival 2022. Again, there is still time. Meetings are restarting. Carry on the good work that you're already doing in the lodge or the chapter. So we've talked about the kind of things that you can do outside of the lodge meeting itself or prepare for it. But what can you do actually in the lodge meeting itself? Carry on the good work, as I've said. Collect alms. Get alms gift aided. You can always gift aid the alms collection because it comes from an individual person, but you can't gift aid a raffle, etc. So therefore, get that gift aid on those alms collections. Just as an interest, we gained nearly £800,000 from gift aid in the last festival. We're only hitting about 400,000 gift aid this year for this festival, so we are down on that. But it is a significant amount, and as was mentioned in the other videos, we know how much money gift aid contributes to the MCF every year. So take every opportunity to gift aid everything. Don't be scared of the gift aid envelopes. Don't worry about the tax man knowing what you're doing. Give you a clue. He already knows what you're doing with that. So therefore, make sure the arms come through like that. Have a draw. Have a tombola or something with that. Have a raffle at the festive board. Even if you can't gift aid the raffle, the money can go into the festival. The money can go into charity. Keep things going. Keep the momentum going that we want to get back to for normal meetings. As we've said before, Essex do things the Essex way. And it is something that we are saying that we know that all of our festivals in the past have been driven by events and donations with that. For some reason, we do not take up regular payment plans as much as other provinces do to go into the festival. So what kind of events should we be looking at? I mean, there's still time to organise. There's 7 months. It takes, how long? A couple of months to organise a quiz night. It could take 3 months to organise a race night. We have still got time. If it does that, you've got 7 months to organise 2 quiz nights and a race night. And that's 3 options to raise money. Look at a dinner. Look at a sponsored walk. Look at a white table. Why not use it as an opportunity as membership as well to link charity with attracting new members? There's always these things to think out of the box to link 2 things together. Magic night. This is something that is coming around now. There are a number of magicians within Masonry. I think some of the people that do the ritual very well are magicians. But there are magicians that fit into that. And you can run a very good magic night with that. Think of a challenge, a 500-step challenge or something with that one. You have this option and this time. Quiz nights, race nights, raffles, mini draws. I'm not going to mention scratch cards. But you've got other options which you can do with that, and we still have time to do that. The only restriction is yourself. The horizon we have there is yours. Now, Colin did report that we have £4.3 million banked. Now, when we break that down to lodges and chapters, that is represented by about £3.9 million with lodges and about 400,000 with chapters. Now, what's interesting to see there, chapters, they're already craft masons anyway, so they are donating twice, which is fantastic. So thank you, companions, for all of that. But what does that mean? That means that the average donation by a lodge is just over £13,000. And the average donation by a chapter is just shy of £4,000. And as an average in Essex, our membership contribution is about £528 per member. Now, Colin mentioned earlier how that is lower than some of the other provinces. But how can we move those up a bit? Well, if we increase our lodge donations by about £2,000 on average, it would take us up to just over £15,000. If we increase chapters by about 800, it takes us up to about 4.5. Now that takes our individual donation up to about £631, getting more into those levels of some other provinces with that. And that's not a phenomenal amount to increase that by. But what would that mean? That would mean lodges would go up to £4.6 million, very nearly the whole of the old total. You'd then get 550 with chapters, and with a few other extras from other orders and for other donations, we would then end up with a total of £5.4 million, which again would be fantastic, nearly 10% above what the original target was, and a wonderful effort with COVID around. But that's not where we really want to go to. If we then increased, instead of for £2,000 for lodges, we went that little bit extra, emptied the relief chest a little bit more, emptied the benevolent account a little bit more, and we went up to 3,300, it would take us to just under 16,000, just over 16,000. If chapters did just about half of what that increase is, about £5,500, and that would put our per capita donation up to £700, which would be an absolutely fantastic number per person. And what would that mean? That would mean £670,000 from chapters, round about 5 million. So lodges themselves would break the old target. Now, some of you might be able to guess what the next number's going to be. Has anybody got any idea what it will be? It will be 6 million. If that kind of scenario happens and we manage to increase our donations in that way, we will be able to hit £6 million. And that, then the fireworks will definitely come out for that completely. But time is running out. And as you know, I like cricket, and I always try to get a cricketer of some kind, even if he is a Yorkshireman. Jeff Boycott into it. We still have opportunities. Now, Jeff Boycott had an interesting philosophy about building an innings and how you go to a challenge. And his idea was to construct an innings with landmarks. So in other words, the first ball he hits, the first 4 he scores, the first run he scores, which normally took a bit longer with Jeff Boycott, the next 5 overs, the next 10 overs, break it into manageable amounts and manageable chunks. And if we apply this to here, 7 to 8 months to go, how many meetings have we got in that time? How can we break it down into those manageable chunks? So, most of us will have 2, 3 or 4 meetings for our lodge or chapter in that 7 or 8 months. If we could transfer or raise the equivalent of £800 per meetings, £800 per meeting for lodges, or £600 per meeting for chapter, we would then achieve that objectives. I'm not saying collect £600 at chapter meeting. What I'm saying is once you've done your donation from the relief chest, etc., added on the arms collection, added on the raffle collection as well, you can move that up with that. It is a manageable chunk per meeting to actually achieve the targets that we're aiming for. We can still do it. It can still be done. 5 million is well within our sights. It's not too far off with that one. But the real question is, how close to £6 million will we get? Thank you, brethren.
Thank you, Chris. Right, well, we're getting there, brethren. I think I've nagged you enough about the MCF. But that's why you're here, really, isn't it? Sort of well, I'm not getting nagged in a nice way, and you are getting lunch, so as they say, no such thing as a free lunch. This next section is all about the role of the charity steward. And do you know what? I've been on the charity committee since 2000. I've been charity steward since 2011. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I've served you as Provincial Grand Charity Steward to really be at the sharp end and witness how we've changed lives, as you've just seen on that earlier on in those videos. As I said before, and again, we do make a difference. We give hope and we give inspiration to people across Essex. Actually, we make things better, and that's why I'm proud to be a Freemason. Now, I know the job of charity steward is not the easiest. Whether you're operating at lodge level, chapter or provincial level, no one really likes parting with cash. Well, they don't, do they? And while Essex Freemasons will always step up to the plate when we ask them to, they're like everyone else. They need to be convinced that their money will be well used. And sometimes it's bloody hard work. Now, as charity stewards, we are the messengers, which basically means we're the ones that will get shot again and again. So it does mean you have to be particularly thick-skinned. I mean, I even had this at a level with my executive colleagues, but because they ask the same questions as your members will ask the same questions of you. So that's why I'm very grateful to everything you're doing, and why I'm grateful for the support that you have given me personally over the years. Now, the role of the lodge or chapter or charity steward has never been more important. You generally are beginning to acknowledge this more and more, and I can actually see the day when we do have a grand almoner and a grand charity steward. It's no longer a job you can give to old Fred, and I do apologise to anybody here called Fred. It's just a metaphoric thing at the moment. But if you give it to maybe an old member and just hope he's going to make a good fist of it, sorry, it's no longer applicable. It's got to be a position for somebody who cares passionately about helping others and has the skills to deliver for his lodge or chapter when called upon to work for Province. Now, as charity steward, it's your job to look after all of the money collected in your lodge or chapter for charitable purposes. Now, you might think the treasurer might sort of put his hand up and say, no, that's not your job, that's my job. Well, you might give that money to the treasurer to bank on your behalf, but it is you who are responsible for that money. The chances are that you'll also work with your secretary to see that funds reach the right place, but it is you, the charity steward, who is in charge. And in case you're any doubt about that, check in the Book of Constitutions, and you will find that the charity steward is responsible for every type of donation. But of course, you must work with other officers in the lodge to make it work for you. Now, as I've already mentioned, we change lives. We've seen evidence of that today. Our membership and communications team know this. Did you know that more than 95% of favourable press coverage is a direct result of our charitable giving? Right? What else do we write about normally? We can't write about what we do in a lodge or a chapter meeting, but we can write and say what we do for the rest of the community. And the press love this. And this is why membership teams are now working more closely with charity stewards to make sure that we get this coverage. That's good news for us, good news for charity stewards, because we're letting the outside world know that we are part of their local community and can be called upon when help is needed. Now, we all love to see good headlines about the craft, and I have to say that I do feel a sense of pride when I can see just how much of a difference we've made. Our membership team, as I said, also realise the value of good charity-based stories. So with this in mind, I thought you should see just a few, and when I say a few, I mean just a few of the things we've been doing on your behalf and in your name over the last 12 months or so. Short video, brethren. Don't you love technology? Brethren, that's just a few. I could have made that video 3, 4, 5 times as long. It's just endless. As I sit here and talk to you, I know of at least 8 charity presentations. We're currently in the business of arranging to give over even more money. So it never stops. The money flow never stops going to charities. Warren shuts down. Also, some £130,000 was donated on your behalf to combat COVID across Essex. This money was used for vital PPE equipment. Every care home in Essex that wanted it got PPE equipment funded by Essex Freemasons. And so did many other emergency care workers that couldn't get PPE equipment from other sources. In the coming weeks, you'll also see us making further donations via the MCF, big ticket items, £30,000 at a time, brethren, to help kids with cancer at every Essex hospital, 2 new minibuses, as I've already alluded to, in Benfleet and Colchester. I also hope to illustrate just how much of a difference we, and that means all of our members across Essex, are making on behalf of the wider community. But brethren, we can only continue to do this with your support. It all comes down to money in the end, doesn't it? Our ability to keep raising enough. It is becoming increasingly difficult because things are changing in the craft. The culture of giving on a regular basis has totally altered. I probably get more calls from charity stewards saying our members have stopped giving regular payments to relief chests. We've seen a growing trend where we see that newer Masons, and as I just mentioned, many older ones for that matter, who appear to be unwilling to commit to regular charity giving. Now, there was a time when all initiates would be directed to the charity steward, who would immediately ask the newly made brother to take out a regular covenant. It is clear that this is no longer happening in many lodges, not just in Essex, because I sit on a lot of committees at the MCF, but across the whole UGLE constitution. It would seem that many charity stewards feel that they're asking too much of an initiate who has been asked to pay a fee, a year's subs, and is now being asked to part with a £5 a month maybe. So why is this? Now, the initiate knew from the beginning that we were a charitable organisation. He would have been asked in the ceremony if he had anything to give in the cause of charity. It means that we are gradually getting out of the habit of regular giving, even with well-established members. And this is something that I would like us to bring back. And it is being discussed quite extensively at the MCF. Brethren, if this is happening in your lodge or chapter, I would urge you to make this part of a candidate's initiation and to reinstate a tradition which goes back hundreds, if not thousands of years. And while you're at it, you're probably well worth reminding some of the older members about the traditions of charitable giving. If every member of your lodge was paying £5 a month, it's not very much money nowadays, £60 a year, you would have plenty to give in the cause of charity to your local charities, plenty in the pot to support future festivals, and as we know that there are many Masons who could afford a lot more. We've got to ask the question, if we are afraid of asking a brother to donate, and remember, without detriment to himself or connections, in the belief that we might lose him as a member, then something is clearly wrong. For a start, that member might be more than happy to make a regular payment. So we do need to ask. And if that is then the reason why we lose that member, was he really worth having in the first place? This, of course, is a personal decision for every charity steward who almost certainly will need the support of his GP committee to bring back regular giving. But, brethren, it is something we do need to address. And I've had this from quite a few charity stewards even today. The next big elephant in the room, there he is how do we address the very idea of charity giving amongst our established members? Alms collection frequently attract pennies. We know this. And it's not uncommon to see gift aid envelopes where the strip has been torn off, left blank, and then sealed in an envelope. Yes, it happens regularly. At a provincial meeting with 1,500 members, we might see 200 gift aid envelopes where people have done that, put it into an envelope. And I actually have to ask the question, how many of those members then went to the bar and said, "What's yours, Fred?" Because they couldn't be asked to do that. Now I do appreciate that there are some who cannot afford to give, members on fixed incomes or facing hardship. We're not talking about these people. And they should never, ever be made to feel embarrassed about giving little or nothing at all. Without detriment at all times, brethren, remains the mantra. But we should be asking questions as to why that person is still putting £1 into the box, just as he was 20 years ago. And in fact, I go to many, many lodges where it's not even £1. We need to remind brethren that times have changed. Inflation has eroded that donation. We must not be afraid to ask the questions, albeit gently and nicely, and have a debate about it to see how your membership feels about maybe changing the way they give. I think that's enough on that because I don't want to dampen down the message here. But moving on, I also want to talk to you about annual charity returns. Now, as most of you will be aware, I usually ask at the end of each year what your lodge has donated to charity over the previous 12 months. It's not because I want to pry into your lodge figures, and it's not a league table to see who's donated the most. If you're a small lodge, you're not going to donate as much as somebody like, say, Seven Kings who've got loads and loads of members. The objective for us is to generate publicity for Freemasonry in Essex and across the UGLE constitution. We know, and I've already mentioned, it's great PR for Freemasonry. So let me emphasise that it's not Province, it's not me as Province that's asking for these figures, it's Grand Lodge. And they're going to put together with all the other figures from all the other provinces. They need to know from me how much did Essex lodges and chapters give to Masonic and non-Masonic charities. How many separate charities were supported, and that's it. They have no idea, We don't tell them what each lodge has donated, because they're not worried about it. They don't want to know that. They're only looking at the figure. The information you provide is entirely confidential and is only seen by me and my immediate team. Now, even if your lodge donated zero, and there will be many lodges that have in the last year, 18 months, have donated zero, it doesn't matter. I still need to know to ensure that my figures are as accurate as possible. Now, this is the trouble, that I only get back about half the returns from lodges. To bother to send it back, which means it's very, very difficult to me to get accurate figures, and that means I have to take a mean average and actually guess at what I think you have donated as a province. So, brethren, please let me have those returns. I will be asking in December, and I do have to get them up to Grand Lodge by the end of January, and it really will help, and we can promote Freemasonry. Now, before I end this section, I also want to talk more about Essex Freemasons Community Fund and the Essex Provincial Charity Fund, both of which are set up to support you and your members. Now, the Community Fund was set up nearly 2 years ago and was the brainchild of our late PGM, Rodney Bass. The initial funding of £120,000 came from savings made at head office, and I understand that further funding will be transferred very soon. Now, we have used this resource on your behalf to match fund donations from lodges. I hope that quite a few lodges, I think I've seen a few of you here today, where you've donated £500 and we've matched it. And we've also made further large, big ticket donations across the board. I mean, Henry, that you saw that, the poor lad with cancer, we made a £30,000 donation. We took a decision as trustees to make that donation to help that boy, a 3-year-old boy who is facing death. And I don't think anybody in here would argue with that in this room. We also use that money to help the work of our almoners, and we are continuing to use that money to fund good causes. Now, brother, it probably sounds as if I've been nagging away at you most of the morning. I sort of don't want to apologise for that, because there have been several messages which I need to get across to you and your brethren, and I hope you have taken it in the spirit in which it was intended. I'm sorry if you do feel that I have been nagging, because I and my deputy Chris are very aware of how difficult it is to be a charity steward. But I think not a single day passes without one of us making contact with at least one or two of you needing help. This is what Chris and the rest of my team do for you as a charity. We are your connection with Province, and please use us. If you need help, we will visit your lodge or chapter. We're at the end of the phone. Just ask for advice. You haven't got to be alone. We heard earlier on that some of you have members who don't want to give to various charities. Well, that's fine. You as a member of that particular lodge don't want to be in bad stakes with the rest of your members, but we're visitors, so it doesn't matter. I frequently feel isolated after a meeting. I really must change my deodorant. But the fact is that sometimes it's easier for an outsider to get that message across. And on your behalf, the team here, and we've got some excellent people, are at your disposal. Please use us. We can help you with gift aid issues, as you heard earlier from Chris. We can take you through the technology relating to relief chests, general donations, or anything else that might be bothering you. As I said, we are your link with Province, your link with the MCF, so please continue to use us as much as possible. Finally, before we go into our last question and answer session, I want to thank you all for the support that you've given me. It has been and continues to be a privilege to be your provincial charity steward. Thank you. Okay, it's time for you to have to say, and all our virtual members as well, don't forget to click that button with your questions. Actually, I'm looking down these things, thinking I can actually communicate with our virtual members. I have no idea where they are. It's just, there's nothing for me to focus on. But hopefully, our virtual members have come in with a couple of questions. They have said no, so it's down to you lot here for any questions you have. So the back, yes. Oh, there's a speaker. There's a mic. Hold on a sec. Microphone's on its way.
I have a question about the using of QR codes. It looks a very good system. However, what guarantees are there on cyber security? I know a lot of our members did not even want to use Zoom, let alone start transferring money over the internet or the ether.
I think that's you, Suhail.
Okay. So QR code or digital donations, security. The two I'm going to be as simple as possible. The two components in place here. The first one is gathering of data, which is, as a donor, my personal details, my lodge membership details. And the second component is the payment. The payment component is secured by an industry standard mechanism. Okay, I can't disclose that for obvious reasons. And our payment partner here is Stripe. Stripe is an internationally known organization. They're very big players in e-commerce, and they're subjected to all the international and UK regulations. And all the systems are tested and certified. With regards to capturing of data, that also is using a technology which encrypts all the data as it's being entered and transmitted. Does that answer your question? So in short, yes, all available standard encryption and security protocols are in place.
I think it would be useful then when you do, as you are rolling this out, it's to actually roll that answer out.
On when we released the digital donations via email early in the year, throughout the provinces in the English Constitution, there were attachments and guides, and in those guides, these things have been mentioned.
Okay. I mean, I'm actually standing in for the charity steward, so I didn't know that had happened.
Yeah, that particular bit was addressed as part of a general FAQ.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And in fact, I can confirm that Stripe as a portal. I run several e-commerce sites, and we use Stripe, and it's incredibly secure.
We've had one question from Zoom, and it's linked with QR codes as well, and I think it's one for Suhail as well. If a brother is unfamiliar or hasn't got the technology to use the QR code, can another brother do it for them using their technology, or does it have to come from the donating brother?
Right. Having been told that this is being recorded, I'm not exactly sure how to answer this. So, can another person make a donation on my behalf or use my technology, whether it's my phone, my laptop, or my computer? I think the answer to that would be yes. Whether you want to do that is entirely at the discretion of that person. I think that's the only answer I can give. It's not best practice. It's that individual discretion. If you wish to, I mean, we trust our wives, so might as well trust our.
I think the question was, if I made a contribution on through the QR code with my machine, and I tried to, could I do it in your name rather than doing it in my own name?
Right. I think that. So okay. So what we're trying to say here is, can I make a donation on behalf of another person? Yes, you can, but it will be very difficult for the Relief Trust Office or us to actually to establish that this donation was made on behalf. However, that said, if it's a one-off transaction, it's sizable, or in other words, it's a material transaction, then if the person who made the donation can contact the office and say, I have made this donation of £1,000, perhaps, for the Essex Fest 2022 Festival, then that can be acknowledged. Again, however said that, the tricky bit will be the gift day declaration, because the gift day declaration must be from the donor. Right? There are always exceptions in any business. If a situation like that, I would suggest that then you don't use the QR code and perhaps opt for another established manual offline type of a method, whether that's a check or a bank transfer. Yeah, so one has to bear in mind these if you like, these technicalities.
Okay, thank you. So, Chris? I'm going to answer a question I had in the break. People were asking me about transferring from the relief chest. Could they actually put that against individual members? Yes, there is. There's a green allocation form on, which you saw from Suhail earlier on. So if you're making a transfer from relief chest, you can allocate, say, sums of £500 each to individual members, and they will qualify for a festival jewel. And if you let me know, I will send the jewels off to those particular individuals, so it's another incentive for you to do that. Are there any further questions? Oh, wow, this is good.
The person on the left was first.
Who was the first? Well, we'll start at the front. Brother, please hold that thought. We will get to you. Oh, he's left you alone, is he? That's okay. Well,
Oh, it's you now, Gary. Don't mess it about. Right. Sorry, it's just getting back to the QR codes, because I understand that you're able to put the QR code on the summons, which really interests me, because that way, say, country members who aren't coming to the meeting, or even members who can't come to the meeting, hopefully will still make a donation.
Absolutely right. I think this is more of a comment as opposed to a question, and thank you for that. Thank you for that. It is, again, the emails that were sent out, they have different attachments, starting from a guide for the relief trust representative, a guide for the donor, and other attachments are, there's an image of the QR code, and there's also a PDF document. So, for example, the image can be used to print on any other medium, be it paper or offline or online. You can actually print out the PDF and distribute it at large. And the other important point that you actually make is, and thank you for that, is the donation can be made anytime, anywhere, before the meeting, at the meeting, after the meeting. And it's your QR code owned by you, hence the word digital donation asset. Once your member have got that QR code, whether it's electronic or hard copy, it's there for a long time. We're going to start charging you now.
No, just a quick follow-up question is, so if you got a guest who's coming to your meeting, obviously the money will go to your relief chest. Will that member or that guest also be accredited with those donations?
Okay. Now here, that's a good question. The protocol and the principle is exactly the same as it would be for a gift in envelope. So if I'm attending your lodge meeting, I'm there, I fill in a gifted envelope form. That collection is for the purpose of your lodge relief chest. So monies will be credited to the lodge relief chest. I, as a visitor, will have my name there, and for credit purposes, yes. But the overall credit will go to the lodge, that particular meeting. The QR code, that's why each QR code is unique to the relief chest. So we don't have that confusion, or the money was meant to be somewhere else, etc. It just cannot happen. So we've managed that process.
On that note, brethren, if you can ask your members and guests to actually scan that QR code before the meeting. Nobody wants a load of mobile phones going on in the lodge.
That's been had over there, has been there for a long time.
Yes, Steve, over. Gentleman at the back. Microphones over the way.
We need it for the Zoom meeting, Peter, so they can hear you.
Thank you. I've got a question. Some of these donations that are in the relief chest were made prior to having the 2022 logo put on them. So we've got members that have made donations that have not been allocated to the 2022 festival. How do we get on as a lodge making those donations? Because I've been led to believe that they remain the property of that person until they decide where they go.
Well, that's an easy question to answer. When a brother has made a donation into your relief chest, it becomes the property of the lodge, and therefore it's the decision of the lodge where they wish to donate the money from that relief chest to. That particular brother really, unless you've got some special rules within your lodge as a private lodge, really loses the rights. I mean, if you actually go into a shop, say Marks and Spencer, and spend 20 quid, you lose the right to actually tell them how they should invest it. So consequently, the money that goes into relief chest, it then becomes a lodge or a chapter decision as to how that money is used. As I explained earlier, you do have the option of actually allocating funds to an individual when that donation is made, but that's property of the lodge. So whatever they're telling you, that's wrong. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Steve, we will get through to you, brother, and don't worry. And thank you for asking these questions. Gentleman here.
Brian Tunbridge, Iceni chapter 6066 in Chingford. Is there a facility for the Festival 22 to receive payments from our bank account direct by BACS transfer?
Well, the short answer is yes.
Our charity steward couldn't work out how to get that done.
You can. I mean, what you do is that you raise. I mean, electronic transfer. You mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it is. All you need is the bank details, which I can forward on to you.
Great stuff. Thank you very much.
So you can make a direct donation.
Great.
In fact, anybody here that needs to do that, we can let you have those details. It's the easiest thing in the world. And thank you for asking. It's a good question, actually. Mm-hmm.
Palmjay Bansal from Stanton Mount Fitchett Lodge, Stanton Mount Fitchett Chapter 6230. I'd just like to ask a question about regular payments, and that is, first of all, can regular payments be amended? So if a member's paying, say, £5 a month, can they change it to, say, £10 a month at any time during that period?
Well, the short answer is yes. Of course you can. Or you just advise your bank that you wish to update your donation, and it can happen. Obviously, what you can't change, if you put up, say, a payment period, if you put up a payment period of, say, 3 years, and that payment period is coming to an end, then you need to take up another direct debit. But you can certainly adjust that within your bank. I think that's correct, is it?
Yeah, you need to cancel the existing promise, or the agreement, as you call it, and then set up a new one.
All right, that's it. Thank you for that.
And am I correct that the lowest level of recognition for a festival jewel is still £500 at the moment?
It's £500 plus gift aid, £1,000 plus gift aid, and 1,500.
I was thinking for members that haven't started a regular payment plan yet, would it be a solution to try and introduce a lower level, say a £250 target for members that haven't started a payment promise yet, because it's unlikely that many members will get to £500 over the next year or so?
I think this is a personal view. I think that would be unfair on the members that have donated £500, but we do have that extended period. We have 2 years. If somebody wants to go for it, then I would suggest that. But I think we set those levels at 500,000 and
yeah, sure. Maybe not a festival jewel, but some other form of recognition that if they get to 250, because of from what I saw earlier on, that if every member gives an extra, say, £200 from now till the end of the festival period.
Well, once again, to answer your question, all festival jewels are in the province of UGLE and they have to approve them. I believe that our PGM can authorise a PIN, and this may be something we can consider for the next 18 months or so. But I think it would depend. We'd have to ask a few questions. But actually, let's go for it. You've probably got loads of guys in your lodge who are good for 500 quid. Come on, let's go. Let's just see it happen.
Sure. No, thank you, Colin.
That's it. Pleasure. Sorry, gentleman over there, Steve.
I've got a few on here next time.
Oh, yeah. And good to see you guys online actually coming with a few questions as well. Thank you. We will get round to them. It's funny, it's the most peculiar thing because I feel I should be looking at these to actually communicate.
Colin, it's Colin Towell from the Lodge of Amity 5753. There has been an awful lot of talk on Facebook in recent weeks about chief executive officers of charities receiving huge payments. Indeed, there has been one CEO that was quoted as receiving £1 million. And these guys, mainly men, they do very little other than be a figurehead. Now, you and I have both said that the Masonic Charitable Foundation has the lowest overheads of any organisation, and indeed, take someone like Henry, where money is donated to Henry, then the full amount goes to him. But Les Hutchins has said that there is a huge amount that is going to be made to big national charities. So what endeavour is made to ensure that those big charities, in fact, do not use the money to pay CEOs exorbitant amounts of money?
Right, well, as you rightly said, Colin, the MCF, the overheads of the MCF are probably the lowest of any major charitable organisation in the country. I can tell you that every single grant is critically looked at by the various committees and is carefully allocated in terms of actually meeting all the Masonic criteria, and that would include sort of major salaries as well. Now, I'm going to go on to dangerous ground here because I don't totally know the right answer here. But I was just going to say I'm going to bring Suhail in on this, who would be able to actually give you some more information.
Hi, Colin. Thanks for making that point. Right, so charity grants or grants to non-Masonic organizations, if I may use that, please, they are carefully vetted. And the vetting process includes, from the start, by the charity grants team itself, as part of the application processing workload. And then it goes to the Charity Grants Committee, which meets 4 times a year. That committee then recommends those grants to the board, and is then ratified by the board. So all the considerations that some of that you mentioned, for example, salaries and their future aspirations, etc., they are all taken into account. So there is a robust process in place to do exactly that. And in the past, past 3 years, and one example has been the COVID appeal, which in partnership with UGLE and various other provinces through the Regional Communication Group, of which I think Essex is RCG 7.
Yep.
Yeah?
The group set.
The local provincial organisations have come into play as part of the vetting process and part of that discussion. So there is a robust process in place to do exactly that. Okay.
I hope that answers your question. It's, I thought that was the right answer, but it's been it's answered. Can we take some online questions here, Chris? Go on.
Yeah. I've got three questions, which I think are Suhail's again. They're to do with the QR code. First of all, there was another question about the security of it, but I think we just need to ensure that. There was one about, is all the data collected within the QR code GDPR compliant?
Yes.
And how is it used? And how can you track QR code donations within the relief chest?
Okay.
Right.
So the first question about the security and security protocols, I think I've answered that early, who we use. The next question was about GDPR. Yes, all relief chests, whether it's an online donation method or an offline donation method, are subject to and follow the GDPR or Data Protection Act 2018 regulation. In this particular case, the QR code you'll note at the end of the process or the journey, if you like, when the donation is fulfilled, there is a privacy policy link there. So if somebody's interested or wants to see that, they can tap on that link and they will see the privacy policy on the GDPR. So the answer is yes, it has been checked against the GDPR, and the GDPR is in place for that purpose. The third one,
how you can track the donation.
The third one was the tracking of donation. This came up earlier. There was a question also how, yeah. The question was also, how do we know that how many donations have